Oh. Okay. So, welcome class. Today we're going to be talking about a new topic in science that you guys have yet to talk about. Although I'm pretty sure some of you are pretty familiar with what living and non-living things are. So to start off our lesson, we're going to do a fun little game, where it's actually a scavenger hunt. I'm going to give each of you a copy of the scavenger hunt, and I want you to walk around the room. I want you to kind of go out and I want you to pick out the things that you find that are living and non-living. This is based off of what you know about what living and non-living things are. So there's no wrong answer. We're going to go through and we're going to learn about it. So at this time, just kind of get up, walk around. You guys can discuss with each other what you think. Maybe if you have questions with your classmates and you want to check your understanding with them, feel free to do so. And then we'll go into our lesson. Now, before you guys do get started, I do want you guys to really pay attention to the different characteristics of things that you find around the classroom, what makes them the same and what makes them different. So just focus on those things as you walk around and try to find things. You can pick them up and look at them more. The classroom is kind of small, so. But yeah, feel free to roam around. It doesn't matter, I just grab a bunch of things, so as long as you can fill out the form. And then once you're done, just sit down and we'll know when everybody, so we know when to start. To go forward. Everybody's done? Okay, so first, I want to ask you guys, what are some of the things that you picked out throughout the room? Maybe we'll start. Megan? Go ahead, Megan. Giraffe. Giraffe, okay. And is that a living or non-living thing, do you think? Living. Living. Why do you think it's living?
Because it's an animal.
Okay, and all animals are living? Okay. Anybody else?
I saw a car.
Okay.
Nice car.
And is it a living or a non-living thing, do you think?
A non-living thing.
Okay, and why do you think it's non-living?
Because cars don't live.
Okay, so these are just questions to get you thinking. Think about why is it a living or a non-living thing? What makes up a non-living thing? Can a non-living thing be anything that's not walking and moving around? Can a non-living thing be something that does move? These are the kind of questions we want to kind of ask ourselves so we can really think hard about what the scientific definition is of living and non-living. So our outcomes are going to be the first thing we're going to talk about this morning so that we can kind of discuss what we want to learn in this lesson. What exactly do we want to know about living and non-living things so that we can leave this lesson and go on to our next lesson and have a good understanding. Now, the first one is, you guys have already done a little bit of it this morning. You went around and you picked out things. Now, we don't have the information to back up what we thought this morning, and by the end of the lesson, we should have a concrete foundation about living and non-living things to be able to say, we can identify this is or this isn't, and our answer will be right or wrong. Students can name 4 characteristics that are living and non-living. So it's kind of along the same concept of being able to identify. You guys went around and identified different things, but you should be able to name characteristics of each of those items. So the giraffe, if I was to ask Megan, what are characteristics that make it living or non-living, like I asked her, she gave me a few of those. By the end of this lesson, each of you should be able to name at least 4, and that should be easy for you. Do you want to read off the last one?
Students can describe why it is a living or non-living thing.
So that kind of goes along with the characteristics. You can describe why. If someone asked you whether it was a confusing, because some of them are kind of confusing, they kind of could fit in both and it would make you think twice about it. You should be able to describe why it is with reason. So we're going to go, it's listed up here because the PowerPoint doesn't stay up the whole time. So that way you guys can refer back to it throughout our lesson. Now some of these slides we're going to go through, and I want you guys to just say it out loud. Maybe we'll go from this side, each person kind of name. So, Sarah,
Yeah.
you think this is living?
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you think it's living?
Because it's alive.
It seems like it would be a really easy question to answer, right? But when we're given the question, it's kind of like, seems like it would be common sense. We don't know how to answer why it wouldn't be. So that's a good thing to think about. Now this next slide, Megan, what do you think? Living or not living?
Living.
It doesn't move a lot though, right? But it's still living? Okay. So ponder in your heads right now as we're going through these slides. Think of things that each of these things need. Things that are each of them have in common that make them living. What about this one?
Living.
Living, right? Can you think of something that they didn't say of why it's alive, why it's living? What does it need that non-living things don't need? Water?
It eats.
Good, food. Now this one, is that living or non-living? Non-living. It is it's kind of like the little things we have in here. It's a representation of a bear, but it's a teddy bear. It's not a real bear. It doesn't eat or drink anything. And it doesn't move unless we make it move, right? Just kind of sits there, it doesn't change. What about this? The ladybug or the leaf. They would fall under the same category. So what do you guys think? Living. Okay. This one? Non-living. And this one? Living. We have one in here somewhere. A little bit. Living. Slow. Sorry, I don't know why it's opening up now. Okay, this one?
Non-living.
Non-living.
Living.
Living. Okay. This one? Non-living. That's kind of like, a lot of these things represent the little things that we had kind of around the room. So we had little cars, we had little animals. These are kind of our basic themed items that you see on a daily basis. You see cars all the time, you see animals, you see plants. What does it mean to be living or non-living? Can one of you guys read what it says under the living? What does it mean to be living? What do you need to be a living thing?
The living things eat, breathe, grow, and reproduce.
So once we got through some of these slides, we kind of started to think more clearly and, okay, yeah, some of these things have things in common. They need something to eat, they need to breathe oxygen, they grow over time, and they reproduce. What does reproduce? Do you guys know what reproduce means?
Have babies.
Yeah, so they have babies. They make things, or they make like themselves. They reproduce over and over again. It's the cycle of life. So that will be another lesson that you'll learn in science later, and that's why it's really good to understand what does it mean to be living and non-living, because that will help us once we get into that lesson. Can somebody please read what it means to be a non-living thing?
Non-living things do not eat, breathe, grow, or reproduce.
So how easy is that to remember? If it's not one, it's the other. There's no gray area, right? So that's the one thing that I like to think of when you are naming 4 characteristics of living things. If it is eating, it does breathe, it does grow and reproduce, then it's living. And if it doesn't, then it's not living. So you can draw your answer there. Now here are some examples of things that living things do. Living things move. So whether it's running, walking, flying, swimming, they move. We move. Living things constantly move. They don't, like the teddy bear, they don't just sit in one place and you have to manipulate the movement they make. Things that grow and change. So these are just kind of some pictures to show you the evolution, the cycle of life here. You start as you come from an egg, you're a baby chicken, you turn into a chicken. This is reproducing. And it said things that breathe. So fishes need air, even though they're underwater. We need oxygen while we're breathing around. and so do animals, plants, and everything. So things that reproduce, a couple pictures. Things that need food and water. So is this a living thing?
Inside of it.
It is because in the scientific term of living and breathing, if the giraffe ends up getting sick and passes away, is it still a living thing or is it a non-living thing? But what was the definition of what a living thing was?
Eats, breathes, grows, and reproduces.
So because it dies, it doesn't mean that it didn't need to eat, it didn't need to breathe, and it didn't need to reproduce. It still will have another animal of the same kind reproduce and make another animal. It will still, as long as it's alive, it needs those things to survive. So because it needs those things, even after it dies, it's still categorized in living things. Whereas non-living things like this rock, it will never change. You could cut it in half, but it's still a rock. It doesn't get bigger, it doesn't grow, it doesn't talk, it doesn't eat or absorb dirt to make a bigger rock. It's just a rock. Whereas the animals, they need those things to survive. And once they're gone, they're still categorized as a living thing. That's the most common mistake with categorizing living and non-living things, is that most times we think non-living things mean you're dead. That's what we grow and we think and we learn. But we got to, in the scientific world, the term non-living and living is different. So, is this living? No, you're right. To me, it was kind of confusing for this one because it was a part of a plant. But essentially, I guess it could be reproduced because the seed could be put in the ground and it could grow into another sunflower. But on its own, just being eaten, to me, I thought, okay, is it or is it not? Kind of a tricky one, right? These are the ones to make you think. Because we could give you easy ones all day, but these are the ones that you have to really think about. It actually is able to reproduce. It actually does need water to reproduce. And it actually does need oxygen as a plant. So no matter whether the seeds come off, the seeds are able to reproduce, it becomes the flower again. So it would be living. So that's the end of the slideshow. I have a couple, I should have pulled more out. These are little graphic organizers that I made for you guys to kind of write out what you learned within this little slideshow that we did. As groups, I want you guys to kind of, you can come up and sit in this seat. I want you guys to pair together, you three can pair together and the two of you, and kind of discuss what you saw in the presentation. Your idea of what the definition was that we talked about, and maybe what are some examples and non-examples. Now, what did we discuss a minute ago about living and non-living? It's either or, right? So you, on your examples and non-examples, you can write above one of them, living, and the other one, non-living, so that you know those two boxes are for those two things. Did you get one? And then I will, I'll throw this slide back up there to kind of give you guys reference to go back to.
You had number 5. So if you had number 5,
Maybe it was when you were 3, but I thought it was 4 or 5. But I can go
but
today.
you can go next. Thank you.
So these graphic organizers should be able to help you accomplish the goal of our first and second outcome, and probably even the third. These are a lot of very, very basic information regarding living and non-living. So you can see here the 4 represented: eat, breathe, grow, and reproduce. Now there are other things that you could refer to, but and this one gives you the answers up here. You just have to pick through which ones you think fits best into the categories. Give you guys a few minutes and then we'll talk about it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So for the definition, living things need food, water, and oxygen to survive. Plants don't use oxygen, while they take in carbon dioxide.
It says in the scientific definition, it did say that it like gases. So- Oxygen is made up of gases. So yeah, probably fix the wording in there.
For sure, a second grade won't know that, but
Yeah, no, but very good point. Make that my reflections. Things I can change. But yeah, it's in a lot of the reading that I did in the book that I used, it referred to oxygen. So plants need gases, and then people, animals need oxygen. Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay, is everybody done?
Yes.
Okay, so can somebody name 2 characteristics of a living thing?
Can eat and breathe.
Okay. Want to name another 2?
grow and reproduce.
Okay, so there's 4. Now, can anybody name some that are not on the board? Some that we did talk about in the slide, but could be characteristics of something that's living.
Shelter. Needs shelter.
Sorry, I'm just shocked.
Shelter, and that can move. That's a good one. And we already said that it reproduce, but it can move, it changes, it grows. These are all different verbiage for reproduce, but evolves over time. So just like the chick in the picture, the egg doesn't stay an egg forever. It grows and grows and grows. It's the cycle of life. Now I have some goldfish that I have for you guys. And I want you guys to look at the goldfish, and I want you to think of a real goldfish. Now these are goldfish, and I didn't have a printout out of the water ton in there. But think of a real goldfish. Let's say there's a picture of a little plant. And you look at those. Why are they the same and why are they different?
It doesn't grow.
Good point. What else?
They're the same color.
Same color. They're the same shape. Different shapes or same shapes? Same shapes. They what? They have eyes.
You can eat both of them.
Yeah. Now what are things that are different?
These don't move unless you move them. They don't breathe.
They don't breathe.
They don't eat.
They don't eat. They can't eat themselves. They would if they could, but they're heavy.
Thirsty.
What else? Can you think of anything that the goldfish is different than a real goldfish? Doesn't grow. Good point. Now, what would happen if we set these fish in water? They would float.
Soggy.
Yeah, they'd get soggy, so they pretty much wouldn't last. So goldfish need water. These ones don't. You know, these are kind of things that you can take, compare and contrast concepts, ideas, things that you eat on a daily basis, and things that are living and non-living. So this is a non-living and a real fish is a living. These are things that you can compare to think about when you get to those tough ones, like the sunflower seeds. And the sunflower seed is not connected to the flower. So thinking about it needing or being reproduced doesn't seem like it's possible. Do you have a question, Sarah?
Yeah. So if say you're eating a salad, are you eating a living thing because it used to be alive and breathing?
Believe it or not, you are. Yep. Yep. It was living, and it's still in the science world. It's still classified as a living thing. So anything that is, anything that doesn't move, doesn't evolve, or doesn't reproduce is a non-living thing. And anything that does change over time, that does need nutrients, that does need sun, all those things, those are living things. No matter if they're like dinosaurs, they would have been living things in the past. That's a confusing one for me, but it's still classified as a living thing. So, now, after you guys can enjoy the goldfish and kind of soak in all the information you learned. We should be able to, at the end of this lesson, identify what is living and non-living. We were able to compare the goldfish to a real goldfish, so we can think about what makes them the same and what makes them different. And once we observe those things, we can make a scientific assumption. It's not a prediction anymore. We know it's living or non-living. So we can take our observations and we can apply them to what we learned in the lesson, and we can identify living and non-living. We can name 4 characteristics of either, because if you can name the 4 that are living, then you can name the 4 that are not living, because all you have to say is the opposite. We recall 1 living and 1 non-living thing. So I'm going to give you guys a little, another little handout, and it's just a fun little quiz. It's just like the ones you guys just did. And this one, again, is another tool to help you recollect those characteristic traits that each of these things have. And then you guys can keep these to refer back to. So if you ever need to think back when you're looking at something and you can't decide whether it is or not a living or non-living thing, then you can decide because you have the information and the tools right there to help you figure it out.
I have one more question. So plants are living, but they don't really move. Does growing count as moving?
Yes. That's another, the characteristic term that they said.
Alright.
So like animals would move by swimming or flying or anything like that. Plants would be growing, so they're getting taller, moving upwards. Okay, now the quiz you guys will hand in to me, and then we will review in the beginning of our next lesson how this is going to go into the cycle of life in our next lesson. So the quizzes you will turn into me, the graphic designers you guys can keep on hand in your folders to refer back to next week when we talk about the cycle of life and how the living and non-living things play into the cycle of life.
Oh, they're right there.
Yeah.
Right at the bottom.
I was like,
I should have said that, I'm very sorry.
I had no idea.
Okay, once you guys are done with your quiz, you guys can pass it to your right. Okay, and just a few more minutes. So do you guys feel confident about being able to identify? Yeah? Okay. Can somebody name one thing that they do not see in class, that they have seen outside of class before they came here, that was a non-living thing? Something you saw on your way to class, or you saw earlier this morning.
The sidewalk.
The sidewalk, good one. Do you have any other examples?
My house.
Your house.
Ronald's.
Yep. Do you guys have, can somebody name something that they passed that was living?
A person.
Person? What did you say? A mountain? Yeah. Oh, it has the trees on it. Mountains don't grow though. I think it would be more like the plants and vegetation growing on the mountain that's alive. But the mountain itself, unless it was like a volcano that was exploding and erupting and changing, then it wouldn't be alive. Anything else?
The grass.
The grass, that's a good one.
Church.
Yeah. Okay. So again, remember, think about the stuff that we learned today. What is living and non-living? What is the easiest way to identify is to think of the characteristics. Why are they the same? Why are they different? And that's how you can categorize them in the right categories. Think of those key characteristics they need to have to be living or non-living. Okay? So thank you.
Really like your handouts. You really trying them.
I was like living on things. Yeah, you.
I like, yeah, I like this one. I really like it.
Pinterest.